we do have the upcoming crisis of 2025. What would a second Trumpocracy would mean? Um, Now there's Trump's ugly ass face. God, he's one ugly motherfucker. God, that's a face that would creep any woman out. God, that's fucking hideous. Anyway, so if Trump, so if Trump becomes the official nominee for the Republican Party in next year's presidential race, it says Donald Trump will receive tens of millions of votes in the general election, and he may get less than the presumptive Democratic nominee Joe Biden, and or he could get more, which we hope he doesn't. But regardless, tens of millions of idiots, conservative and extremist dumbasses will cast their ballots for him anyway, knowing that he doesn't give a shit about them. In 2016, despite Trump's history of elitist, racism, and sexist behavior, failed businesses, lack of governing experience, and no demonstrated past of caring for anyone but himself, he somehow won nearly 63 million votes, while still almost 3 million fewer votes than Hillary Clinton got. And it was, anyway, the only reason why he got in was because of the joke of electoral college. Um, in 2020, after 4 years of nonstop chaos, the death of more than 200,000 COVID victims, at least in part because of his downplaying the pandemic, a legitimate and warranted impeachment, abuse of power, ceaseless corruption, and more than 30,000 documented public lies, he gained 74 million votes, even if in the end he lost the election, which is what he needed to do. He needed to lose. Now, in addition to all that history, you can add on the incitement of a violent Klan insurrection, a second impeachment for attempting to overthrow the government, 4 criminal indictments, 91 separate different charges, being found liable for sexual abuse, and a stated plan to exact retribution against his enemies if he gets a second term. And yet he will undoubtedly again receive many tens of millions of votes. Now, in fact, you can count on one thing: the 2024 election will not resolve the authoritarian attraction that the Trump vote represents. But so perhaps it's time to prepare now and not later for the political crisis that will undoubtedly emerge from that event, whatever the vote count may prove to be, and the authoritarian threat will continue. Now, a year from the next election, multiple scenarios are imaginable, including, of course, that neither Donald Trump nor Biden will be contenders. Now, Biden's health seems to be fine at the present. Now, he will be only weeks away from his 82nd birthday on election day in 2024, and a lot can happen within a year time. So health-wise, that is. Now, when it comes to Trump, Trump is not healthy. Trump is a fat fuck. And now when it comes to Trump, however, Biden is now likely to be significantly healthier mentally and physically than him. Among other things, no blatant lies or well-tailored suits can hide Trump's unhealthy obesity. Now, while he relishes castigating Biden's cognitive state, it was Trump only a few weeks ago, while giving a speech attacking the president's capabilities, stated that he beat Obama in an election. Now, Trump cannot beat Obama in an election because Trump never ran against Obama, so there's no way that he could have beaten him. And then he said, "Oh, that Americans need IDs to buy bread." No, they don't. I could perfectly walk into a store and buy bread and do not have to show an ID. And then he claims, that Biden would lead the country into World War II, which happened to have ended 80 years ago. Damn you're it. While some of Trump's GOP opponents like Vivek Ramaswamy, Ron DeSantis, and Nikki Haley have indeed launched aegis attacks against him, it's true that he's roughly in the same age group as Biden. Now, meanwhile, don't forget that Donald Trump's legal health is on life support. It's a good bet that in 2024 he'll spend more time in court than on the campaign trail, and he may very well face that moment of truth when he has to decide to cut a deal that keeps him out of prison and possibly out of the White House, because he does not deserve to be back in the White House. In any case, the current trajectory remains Biden versus Trump 2.0. Now, whatever the outcome of the election, this nation seems to be headed for a crisis of historic proportions. Now, no matter who wins next November 7th will do nothing to end the division that exists in this country. In fact, it's only likely to exacerbate and amplify them, and Trump will always remain a danger for that. Trump has already made it clear that he won't accept any losing outcome, even though he's been a loser his whole life. Now, neither will millions of his sycophants. For the modern Republican Party leaders and their base, election rejection if they lose has become an ironclad principle. On the stump, Trump has already begun to emphasize that the spiraling legal cases against him are election interference, and that the Democrats are putting the pieces in place to steal the election from him, which is not the case, um, and that the black judge and prosecutors hold him accountable are racist, and which they're not. Um, as Trump wrote on his fraud social media on his fraud social platform, in caps, he said those individuals to him are riggers, which you could get the hint of what he meant by riggers. He couldn't use the N word, so he put the R word in place of that. That stable genius's use of a term that rhymes with a racist slur against black people was undoubtedly no accident. After all, he spends a considerable amount of his private time branding people. White supremacists wasted hardly a moment in beginning to use the term online in part to get around centers on the lookout for explicitly racist terminology. Um, Now, Trump is, in other words, already laying the foundation to claim election fraud and creating the basis for another maggot revolt. While there's plenty of reason to believe that he won't be able to draw tens of thousands of his sycophants to attack the Capitol again, and not the least being the Justice Department's prosecution of hundreds of those who tried it the last time, has certainly have GOP members in Congress ready to resist certifying a Democrat if they win. Um, Now, Trump's desperation to win is driven not only by the prospect of multiple convictions in his various trials and drawn-out appeals that are unlikely to be successful anyway, and possible prison time of some sort, also by the brutal public dismantling of what's left of his financial empire. The civil suit that the New York Attorney General Letitia James brought against Trump and the Trump Organization has already resulted in a devastating judgment by Judge Arthur Engoron. He ruled that Trump and his and his ugly-ass kids, he found them liable, and Engoron stripped them immediately of their control over their businesses. Trump may now not only lose all his New York business properties, but he'll have to pay hundreds of millions of dollars in restitution to them. Now, for someone whose identity is linked to his purported wealth, this could hardly have been a crushing blow. Now, in his mind, a second term as squatter clearly has little to do with benefiting the country, the Republican Party, or even the rest of his family. It's his only path to shutting down the two federal cases against him in Florida and Washington, D.C. However, even such a win wouldn't help him with the election interference case in Georgia or the hush money criminal case in New York. Now, convictions in either of those would mean further accountability sooner or later. Now, a second term would undoubtedly offer him another chance to monetize the presidency, just as he did the first time around, in a fashion never before seen. Now, his record is still being investigated, but according to Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington, known as CREW, Trump raked in tens of millions of dollars that way, and it reports that Trump's business took more than his businesses took in more than 160 million from international sources alone, and a grand total of more than 1.6 billion from all his sources during his squatting. As CREW put it, Trump's squatting was marred by unprecedented conflicts of interest arising from his decision not to divest from the Trump Organization, which he should have done. He should have basically got rid of his business before he squatted in the White House, and he didn't do that. With his most egregious conflicts involving businesses in foreign countries with interest in U.S. foreign policy. Now Trump's legitimate fear of losing is pushing him toward ever more strident and violent language. He's also signaling to his sycophants that the use of force to put him in power or go. He's telling them to use force to put him back in power or go after those who deny it to him is all too acceptable, which it's not. His visit to the Palmetto State Armory gun shop in Summerville, South Carolina on September 25th was an ambiguous message to them: get ready for fucking war. There, he admired a Glock pistol and was visibly eager to purchase it, even though Trump doesn't know how to use a gun anyway. But however, he ran into a legal snafu. His spokesperson, Stephen Chung, initially posted a video on social media celebrating Trump's purchase of the Glock, which he never brought. A special Trump edition that had a likeness of him and the words Trump 45 etched on it. According to the New York Times, Trump gleefully said, "I want to buy one," even though he doesn't know how to use one. But however, after a staff member apparently realized that no one under federal indictment could legally do so, the post was deleted and a subsequent statement was put up that read that the former squatter Trump did not purchase or take possession of the firearm. He simply indicated that he wanted one. The store would also have been liable under federal law 18 U.S.C. 922, given that it would have been hard for its proprietors to deny that they knew the former squatter was under multiple indictments anyway. Now that visit was more than just a message to sycophants to arm themselves. There, in South Carolina alone, there are more than 158 gun stores, and yet Trump selected the very one that was linked to a mass killing of black people in Florida, and at least one of the guns used in those murders had been purchased at that very gun shop. On August 26th of 2023, white supremacist Ryan Christopher Palmiter went to a Dollar General store in Jacksonville, Florida, and he murdered three African Americans: Angela Michelle Carr, 52, Gerald Gallion, 29, and Nolt Joseph Legore, 19, and then killed himself as the police closed in because he was too much because the guy was a fucking pussy. Now the shooter had two guns, a Glock and an AR-15, and an AR-15 semi-automatic rifle. One of them from the South Carolina Palmetto State Attorney Armory gun store. And Palmiter also left behind several racist manifestos that basically promoted Trump's language. That carnage occurred just a month before Trump's visit, and his implicit decision to associate himself with that explosion of bigoted violence like an earlier trip to Waco, Texas, which was the site of a deadly gunfight between federal law enforcement agents and anti-government extremists. And it helped to reinforce the idea on the far right that violent force is acceptable to meet their political ends. In Trump's Klan speech at Waco, his first official Klan rally for election of 2024, Trump stated, "I am your warrior, I am your justice. For those who have been wronged and betrayed, I am your retribution." Trump is not a warrior, he's a fucking coward. He's not our justice because Trump commits crimes, so basically, he's not our justice, and he's not our retribution. The chaos and disorder likely to follow any Trump... God damn it, fucker. Hold on a second.
That's not me. I swapped bodies.
I skipped that one out. Where are we at here? Hold on. Let's get back here for a minute. I somehow accidentally hit something. Okay, here we go. Now the chaos and disorder likely to follow any Trump loss in 2024 will only be further enhanced if the GOP keeps control of the House of Representatives or they win back control of the Senate. A number of congressional Republicans have shown that they will not hesitate to do all that they can to put Trump back in the White House, including igniting a constitutional crisis by refusing to certify any electoral votes for the Democratic president if they win. Now, with that being said, Trump losing and sending his sycophants into the streets amid tantrums by congressional Republicans and Republican state governors and legislators would hardly be at... God damn it. Fucker. No. Now, if Trump were to win, which he won't, the extremists in and out of government would immediately be empowered to carry out the most right-wing agenda since the height of the segregationist era. Now, a re-elected Trump will find that the most loyal to him, which I don't understand how anybody can be loyal to him when Trump's fat ass is not loyal to anybody, and as corruptible cabinet members possible. Their only necessary qualification will be a willingness to follow his orders without hesitation, whether or not they're legal, ethical, or by any stretch of the imagination good for the country. Because nothing that Trump will do will be good for the country, because it's not going to be anything good. Now count on one thing: it wouldn't be an America first, but a Trump first and last administration. He would undoubtedly engage in a series of personal vendettas with the sort of viciousness and resolve never before seen in Washington. He would take a victory, no matter how marginal or questionable, in the Electoral College as a mandate to attack all his perceived enemies with whatever power his new squadron could muster. He's also well aware of a Department of Justice policy or of questionable legality not to prosecute a sitting squatter. which he'll interpret as a license of perpetual lawlessness, and Trump's persecution administration would harken back to the worst days of McCarthyism and beyond. And unless you think that's the end of the matter, it's only going to get fucking worse. Now, beyond Trump's individual sociopathic behavior, a far-right agenda is being created that will provide a certain ideological clarity to his bumbling authoritarianism. The policy work will not just from the Trump campaign, but from Project 25, should fucking scare everyone. A $22 million initiative by the right-wing Heritage Foundation, Project 25 has already produced a 920-page book, A Mandate for Leadership, the Conservatard Promise, which there's no promise from a Conservatard, detailing plans to reshape the federal government. If it's implemented, its strategy would write the end of the classic separation of powers, checks and balances, and even a nonpartisan civil service. Not every single federal department and agency would instead be restricted to fall under the complete control of the president or squatter. It also offers hundreds of new policies or issues ranging from the environmental and labor rights to education and healthcare. Its underlying assumption that post-2024 a conservatard squatter will be in power for some time to come. If so, Trump, of course, will have the backing of Republicans in Congress, who again may control one or both chambers, and they would have a 6-3 Supreme Court majority. Now you can count on this part. Resistance will be swift, massive, and enduring. Trump and any Republican minority role would not go unchallenged. And the repression, depression was sure to follow. And it would only generate yet more resistance and undoubtedly a generation of political turbulence. And now, on the other hand, a significant electoral defeat for the Republicans and Trump, along with his conviction on many number of criminal charges, would certainly prove a major obstacle to future authoritarianism. Now, however, tens of millions of his sycophants will not go quietly into the night, and while the far-right elected officials in Congress and state legislators will continue to push extreme conservatard policies, now white nationalists and radical and evangelicals will mobilize as best they can. Financial and political resources will still be available, but we won't have much. Now, the effort to defeat maggots at all levels and in all ways politically will go on, but progressives need to prepare for the biggest challenge of 2024 and the perilous years that will soon to follow that. Now, if you like the video, you can get the video, like, and subscribe to my channel, RBW King. You can also hit the notification bell so that you'll be notified when a new video comes out. And if you want to support my work even further, you can donate to my Patreon link, which you can find in the About section of YouTube. And for just a few bucks a month, or for a few bucks a video or a month, your donation can help go a long way. And thanks for listening. And you can also and leave a comment. Let me know what you think about it.